Hey you guys, so I'll start by showing you the finished file. So this is what we're going to do. What we have basically is a list of boats. And these boats are coming into a harbor, and into that harbor you have a list of berths, which are like parking spots for boats. And what you can do is you can select an incoming boat, or you could create a new one if you wanted. And then if that boat is the one that's showing up, you could assign it to a certain spot. Let's say this boat prefers to be on spot number 4. You can select it and you can berth this boat. And basically that means that that boat is going to take that parking spot, and that parking spot is therefore in use. And that boat is not going to show up anymore today because that is already parked and been put away. So this is kind of a list that will grow shorter and shorter as the boats come in. And this list of parking spots for boats will also go shorter and shorter as the parking spots are being filled up. Now you can also see the filled up parking spots, or the boats that have already berthed, by clicking these buttons here. So let's go ahead and see how we can make a system like this. Hey you guys, I just got a question from someone that I thought was kind of interesting, so I thought I'd maybe make a little video about that. And the question was about a dwindling value list. Now, you have a value list, which is a list that contains a lot of values, like for instance products that you want to select for an invoice. You can have a conditional value list, where you could have, for instance, different products from different categories, and then you can first select a category, and then in a second conditional value list you could select only the products from that category. And then what you also have is a dwindling value list. And a dwindling value list is a list that gets smaller the more items you pick from that value list. So if you have a list of, let's say, people that you want to assign to a job, every time you assign a person to a job, that person does not show up in that drop-down anymore because this person has already been added to that job. That is a dwindling value list. It's a little bit tricky to set up, but the question that this person has had to do with berths and boats. Now a berth, for those who don't know, that is a parking space for a boat. I'm explaining that because I didn't know what that was. I had to ask the guy, is that a parking space for a boat? And he must have thought that I was completely stupid. But yeah, a berth is a parking space where you park a boat. So basically this person is in charge of a bunch of berths, parking spaces, and then a whole bunch of boats show up and they need a parking space. So you need kind of a list of like all the boats that usually show up, or maybe you need to be able to add new boats, and then you need to assign this boat to a certain berth, and you need to know, of course, which berths are available. So yeah, a dwindling value list could be used for that. So that would be good, but there is also another way to do it. So let's quickly make a little simple solution to try and see how you could go about making a system like this. So I made a little Filemaker file, and I called it Berths, and because of that I'd automatically get a table that is called Berths, but that is good because I need one of those, and I'm gonna do boats. So those are the two things I need. I have a bunch of berths and I have a bunch of boats. So let's start with the berths, and let's give this an ID. Let's make that a number, and let's make that a serial number. That's kind of cool. And then a berth. How are you going to name a berth? You could give it a name or a number. I'm assuming they're all numbered, so I'm going to say number. Wow, we can't even type anymore. Number. Okay, cool, a number. And maybe there is a location that you could specify, maybe not, maybe there is, I don't know, and maybe that location could sometimes be helpful. So maybe what we would do is make a C number location, and let's make that a text field, and let's make that an auto enter calculated value, where you could say it's the number and a little space and a little dash, and then the location. So that it combines the number and the location into one, and maybe that could be a handier way to kind of describe a berth if there is a specific location that you want to enter there. That could be handy later on in your drop downs. Okay, so what else do you need? Not really a lot, so let's start with this one. Then let's do the boats. Every boat has a name, and then maybe an owner, IDFK, and that would be a number field. And then, oops, I think I may have messed this up. Let's try this again. Oh yeah, I just need to add an ID. You know what, I'm going to start over because this is not the way I would normally do this. Let's delete all these fields. Okay, let's start again. Of course, we start with an ID, which is a serial number. Every boat has a name and an owner, ID FK, and then we could make a, this is a number field, we could then make an owner table and then assign an owner to a boat, etc. Okay, so that's pretty simple. That's kind of all we need here. And then we have our boats and we have our berths. Okay, that's starting to look good. Now we have to start thinking about what we're going to do to assign a boat to a berth. And I think the easiest side to do this on is probably on the berth side. So you can just say that if there is a boat, we're going to put that boat ID number into the berth record, and that will tell us that that berth is filled up. So let's do boat ID FK. So that's the foreign key of the boat ID. And let's create that field here. And that's kind of cool. Let's have a look at what that looks like in real life. So we have our boats. We need to make a few boats. I'm going to put this in table view. Let's make a few boats here. Let's do boaty boat phase, of course. Obviously, because that's the coolest boat name there ever was. Peter. I don't really know any boat names. So, and then let's do, of course, Finding Nemo. That's a cool boat name. If I had a boat, that would be my boat name. So we have a bunch of berths. Let's also go ahead and put this in table view. Let's see that we give them numbers, and let's give them some, let's say that this one's in the front of my harbor, this one's in the center, and this one's in the back, or something. And then you can see that it kind of gives your berth a kind of maybe a more comprehensive name, so it's a bit more logical maybe. But on the other hand, maybe you have a system with a letter and a number like A, B, C, and then 1, 2, 3 or something like that. Maybe you have a sort of a like berth address type situation, which is possible. Okay, so then what we can do is basically say, let's say that there is a boat that arrives and it's boat number 1, and I'm going to put it in a berth, and let's say that it wants to be in the back, so I'll just put boat number 1 in the back. And then because this is filled in, you can kind of know that berth 1 has been occupied, is full. And so if you would want, you could find all the open berths by just doing a simple find. And if you go into the boat IDFK, you can use an operator. And if you click here, you can see all the operators. And this one here, the first one is it matches a whole word or it matches empty. So what we're going to do is we're going to find all the empty berths by finding all the berths where no boat IDFK has been entered. So we're going to choose this one, and it just creates an is equal sign. Very simple. And if we perform the find, then we will find 2 out of our 3 berths that don't have an ID in there, and so that are empty. So if another boat shows up, you could do this, and then you could see, oh, I've got 2 berths, which one would you want? Okay, let's say that he wants to be in the center, and let's say that he's boat number 3. Then I could assign this boat like so, and then there would be 1 left. Now, the same thing in reverse when the boats leave. When boat number 1 leaves, I can just say, well, this one needs to be cleared, and that opens up that berth. Okay, so this is kind of simple stuff, but it doesn't really use the conditional or the dwindling value list yet. But I don't know if in this case that's the best option, but we're going to just try and figure this out anyway. Let's do both things. Let's start with what I think is a better option to make this kind of system, or a good way to lay this out, and then let's try the dwindling value list later. Let's go think ahead about something that we want to add maybe already. If we go to File, Manage Database, we're going to add a field, which could be like a status field. So we could create a status of the berth, whether if it's empty or if it's full, by doing a simple calculation. Let's do status, and then let's make that a text, very simple. And let's do an auto enter calculated value, which is an if statement. And we're going to say if is empty. I'm going to select this one right here. If is empty, the boat IDFK, then my berth is empty. You have to put this between quotation marks because this is a text and I don't need those squirrely braces. And then I'm going to say, if the boat ID FK is not empty, then my berth is full. Okay, that's kind of cool. That's and I'm going to uncheck this one so that if the boat ID FK changes, my calculation also updates. And if we do that, we've actually got an extra way of finding our berth. So let's add this status field to our layout here. Now, if I enter, of course, this is now empty because there was already a value in here. An auto enter calculation only updates when one of the values that is used in that calculation updates. And the calculation basically looks to see if this field is empty. This one is not empty, but I have to update this field to make that calculation update. So if I would write something in here and click outside, that would update this one. And if I just kind of click this away, that would update this one as well. Now, if you have a whole lot of fields that are already filled in, what you could do is go to File, Manage, Database, and copy your calculation because it's a very long and complicated calculation and I want to type that again. It's actually not long at all, but I'm just lazy. And then what I could do is I could just go to stand in this field. I could go to Records, Replace Field Contents, and replace the contents of this field for every single record with a calculated result. And this is where I paste the calculation that I've just copied, and I'm going to replace. And then if you have a lot of fields, all of them will be updated with this calculation. And from now on, as soon as I fill something in here, this one's going to update and it's going to tell me that I've got 2 full berths and 1 empty berth. And you can use this one as well to find for the status of empty, perform find, and then you will find that there is 1 berth that is empty. Now, that makes the find a little easier maybe, or it doesn't really change anything, but it gives you like a visual way of seeing which is full and which is empty. But also you can use this one in a dwindling value list, so that's kind of cool. Okay, what I would like to do is I would like to have 1 list of boats and 1 list of berths so that I can just kind of pair them up as the boats come along. So I'm gonna make a new table. And I'm going to call this dashboard because that's kind of what I would like to make. And on this dashboard, I will also make this dwindling value list. So I'm going to need a few fields here. I will always make, I'm just messing up here. Make an ID field with a serial number. And then for the dashboard, I need to be able to select the boat. So I'm going to say boat ID FK. And I might have to be able to select the berth as well. I don't know yet, but I'll just make a field for that. Anyway. Okay, cool. So I have those 2. Let's hit OK. Let's go to my dashboard and let's see how I am going to figure this whole thing out. So I would like to have a list of all my boats, first of all. Let's start with that. So I'm going to go to File, Manage, Database, and look at my relationships here. So I have my berths, I have my boats, and I have my dashboard. And if I want to see a bunch of boats on my dashboard, I have to relate the boats to the dashboard somehow. But what I always like to do is I like to leave these guys intact. Possibly, let's think about this for a second. Yeah, I'm gonna put this one here. I'm gonna Alt on my Mac and drag this one here. And actually, before I do that, I'm gonna select them both and give them the same color so that it's kind of visible that these are the same. In order to make these clear that these are different ones, I'm gonna also give these guys a color. Okay, so this one is like a new table occurrence of the table boats. If you see here, the source table says boats, but if you go here, the source table also says boats. So that means I did not create a new table, because if I go and look at my tables, I still have 1 boats table, but I have 2 occurrences, boats and boats 2. The reason that I make a new occurrence is because I'm going to relate this one to the dashboard in a kind of special way, and that's why I need a different one. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm on the dashboard, I want to be able to see all of the boats. And in order to do that, I'm going to make a relationship between the ID and the ID, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to double click it and I'm going to say that the operator needs to be an X join. So I'm going to change this relationship here. And what that means is whichever ID my dashboard has, it doesn't matter. It's going to show all of the records with any ID on the boats side. And because of that, I will be seeing all of my boats. So I'm going to call this one boats dashboard all. There you go. So this will allow me to see all my boats on my dashboard. And the way I do that is by making in edit layout, making a portal with the portal tool. And I'll just put it up here. Well, it doesn't have to be that huge. And I'm going to choose my source from boats dashboard all. I'm going to not allow deletion. I'm going to allow vertical scrolling, and all of that. I can use this one maybe. Okay, that's cool. And I'm just going to add the name of the boat. I could add the owner as well, but it doesn't matter right now. Okay, so I've got the name of the boat. What I always find annoying is when that field doesn't have any borders. So what I always like to do is I like to go here and choose default so that my field does have a few borders. So that's kind of cool. I like that better. Then I'm going to make this a bit smaller like so. Okay, let's have a look what this does. Okay, so I've got all of my boats here. That's kind of cool. And what I could do now is I could see all my boats. Okay, let's do the same thing for my berths so that I can get them on the other side. Let's alt drag this thing over here. Let's copy this one so that it's nice and the same. I'm going to have to be showing my berths. So for a moment, let's do the same thing. Let's say berths. Let's alt drag this one over here. And let's do the same thing. Let's say ID. And let's change this one to an X join. Okay. Now let's say berths dashboard all. Okay, cool. And so now I can double click this one. This is not boats dashboards, but berths dashboards. And the name here is not going to be the name, but it's going to be from berths dashboard. Let's do C number location. Or, well, I could just do number and then location separately because this doesn't have to be the combined field. Okay, location. Oops, and I just made a label there, which I don't really need. This is moving a bit harshly, so I'm not going to set this to centimeters, but to points. And then let's... okay, this is not snapping. Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay, let's make some labels. Oh, and I hate it when FileMaker does that. When you just click for a label, it makes this box that just goes downwards, which is really stupid. They should fix that. Okay, let's alt drag this label over here. Let's have berth number and location. Cool, let's have a look in browse mode. Okay, cool. So I have my boats. I have my berths. That's kind of cool. Okay. One little thing that I find annoying is this X join is really cool. And it allows me to see all of these boats and all of these berths. But what if a boat shows up that I don't know yet? I'd have to add it here. But because of this X join, I am not really able to create records through this X join, because basically your X join is saying that you'll see all the records, so it doesn't really know what to do if you create a new record through this relationship, like if you would create a new boat. I'm making this relationship based on the ID field, so FileMaker doesn't really know what to do with the ID if I make a record through this relationship. So if I would like to have the ability to create new boats in here as they kind of come along, then what I need is either to use a different field here and use a script to create a new record here, which is maybe the cleanest way of doing it. But what I could also do is simply change this setup and make it slightly different. Now what you need is between your dashboard and your boats, but also between your dashboard and your birds, you need to have a field that is the same. On both sides, so that it kind of relates to each other, and so that it allows you the ability to create new records, and so that these fields both stay the same. And a little trick that I use for that is a simple global one field. Oops, I'm in the wrong. I need to be with the fields, of course. Don't say this. Dashboards. Okay, I need to make both in my dashboard a G1 field, and I'm gonna make this a number field. Okay, I have to use an underscore. I thought I did. I must have mistyped. So I'm gonna change this one. Okay, and I'm gonna make an auto enter value of 1. Very simple. And I'm going to do the same thing both for my boats, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this field here. Both in my boats I can paste this, and in my births I can paste this. And what I can do now is just simply change my relationship from G1 to G1, and I can make this an is equal relationship. And then I do get these options where I can create boats. I don't want to delete a boat when I delete my dashboard record, so let's not check that one. And I can make that same change here. G1 to G1 is equal. I'm going to change this, and I'm going to allow the creation of births as well. Okay, cool. So if we look here now, nothing is showing up, and the reason that nothing is showing up is because both in my births, if I add my G1 field, it is a global, like an auto enter field, but these records existed already. If I make a new record, the number will show up there. If I make another one, that number will also show, but in the old records it does not show up. So let's make a number 4 and a number 5, and let's say left and right. I understand that this system of locations is not going to be very interesting for a large harbor, but well, it doesn't matter. Okay, I can go to records, replace field contents, and then because I'm in a field that has a value 1, FileMaker is already suggesting, do you want to replace all the other fields with the value 1? Yep, that's what I want to do. And I have to do this with my birds. I have to do this with my boats. Let's modify plus. It's always good to think ahead and have those fields in there beforehand. So also in my dashboard I need to make sure that I add this G1 field and that I put the value of 1 in there. I don't even have a record here yet. So okay, I have this value now, and now you can see that not only do all my boats show up, I also have the ability to make a new boat. Boom, I just made a new boat, and I could make new birds. Now I'm assuming that you're not really going to have to create new birds all that quickly, but you could do that. Okay, so now next step. I have a bunch of boats. One boat shows up and he would like to have a berth. Now actually what I could do is I could copy this one, because I did already make my status field here, so I can add my status field here so I can more clearly see which berth is filled and which berth is not filled. And actually I'm going to make this even bigger, and I'm going to alt drag this one over here to even say add the boat field here as well. So I'm going to copy these over and say status to give some labels to both my status and my boat. Okay, if I exit my layout, then I can see that I actually already have a boat in here and here as well. So these two are already full and these are empty. Now, if I want to, what shall I do first? First assigning them, or first doing this layout a bit better? Okay, so I have two that are already full, and I don't really want to see the full ones here. I only want to see the empty ones. So what I could do for that is simply create a full and empty little selection situation here, so that I can select whether if I want to see all the full birds or only the empty birds. So let's make a field for that. File manage layout, or file manage database, sorry. I go to fields, I go to my dashboard, and I will make a full underscore empty selector, if you will. That could be a simple text field. Okay, perfect. And then I will say, let's say that by default I want to see all the empty berths. That's kind of cool. And now I can add this one here, and then I could say from the dashboard I want to see my full empty selector. I'm going to go here and make this a radio button set, and I'll have to make a new one for this. New radio button set, full empty selector, and this is going to be simply empty and full. Either one of these values. Okay, cool. So that looks kind of good. I can now select whether if I want to see the empty or the full berths. Now this is not really working yet. I need to make a portal filter for this one. So I have to filter the portal records. Now this is always a tricky one and always requires that I have a little test as well. The calculation result must be Boolean. That means either yes or no, or 1 or 0. Non-zero values are true. 0 and empty values are false. Let's see if I do... what shall we do here? Let's do dashboard. No, let's do Berths dashboard all. Let's do status is equal to the dashboard full empty selector, because this one's going to contain and actually I don't know if it works like this or if I really have to make this into a if statement or not, but let's give this a try. Let's see if it works. Yes, it does work, but when I change the value, nothing happens immediately. I have to kind of click outside to force this field to save, because as long as I'm still inside this field, I'm still kind of updating this field. As soon as I go out of it, this updates. I can force this to update by just making a simple little script. And then let's just make this a bit smaller. I can make a new script that is simply a commit record script step, and let's just commit records with the dialog off. Cool. If I just save this one on my Mac, I'm going to hit Command S. Then I can attach that commit, and commit basically means that you're going to save whichever value is in that field and you're going to go out of that field. I can set a script trigger on this field and on the object modify, because this is a simple field that I'm going to click in. I'm not going to be typing in this one, so I can just do commit record. Okay, so that way, as soon as I click in here, the value will be saved. I will go out of this field and this updates. So now I can see my berths that are full or my berths that are empty. Okay, this is getting more and more interesting every moment. Now what would be interesting is if I would have a similar thing going on the boat side, where I could see which boats are already in and maybe which boats are not yet in, because that way, as boats start coming in, my list of boats will start to get smaller and smaller. So that could be interesting. So what I could do is to not only put the boat ID on the berth side, but I could also put the berth ID on the boat side, and then I could do the exact same system as what I'm doing here. I could do that on the boat side as well. So let's quickly do that. Let's go to the boats table. Let's say berth ID FK. Let's make that a number, and then let's make a calculation of berth or unberth. I don't even know if that's a word or not, but let's say that that's what we're going to call it. And that's a number right now. I want that to be a text, and let's change it into a text. Let's make a simple calculation, and let's say if is empty. Wow, is empty. berth IDFK. Then let's do unberthed. Wow, that's really strange. And then if not, it's gonna be berthed. Wow, strange words. Okay, let's uncheck this one. Okay, cool. So now we could add, we can make this a bit smaller, we could make this one a bit bigger, then we could add by alt copying this one. We could say berth IDFK, that's gonna be just a simple number, and then we could say let's alt drag this here, and berthed or unberthed. Very weird. Okay, cool. Let's make the labels here. Berth, and of course we're not going to be showing we are not going to be showing all these IDs afterwards. So basically, if I would be able to read from here, then I've got berth number 1 has boat number 1. So here I actually can't see my boat IDs, but I know that these are in the correct order. So I'm going to say berth. This one is in berth number 1, and then boat number 2 is in berth. Well, it's actually kind of simple. Okay, and this updates, and it shows that these boats are berthed and these boats are not berthed. This is not updating. If it's empty. What did I do with the boats calculation here? If is empty, berth IDFK, then let's say unberthed. Okay, let's copy this. Let's do 2, and then let's undo this one. Yep. Okay. If you put a value in there and you put it away, take it away. Okay. So now this is all filled in. So I can also put on my dashboard a berth unberthed selector, and that's exactly going to be the same thing as this one here. We're going to just maybe move all of this. Oh no, actually I don't need these here right now, so I'll just make a bit of room. I don't need this one on my layout, so this can go, and then this one can come over here. And this one's gonna have the ability to select between berthed and unberthed. Selector, okay, let's just copy and paste this in here, berthed or unberthed. Let's put unberthed on top, because that's going to be kind of like your standard selection. Okay, and then this looks like it's too small. And then let's put berthed, unberthed. Let's give this a auto enter data of unberthed, so that if we were to make a new dashboard record, it would by definition or by default be filled in. Okay, now we have to apply this filter as well. Filter the portal records, and then let's say that berths dashboard all C status needs to be equal to the dashboard berthed unberthed selector. And it already has, you can see this little red star, that means it already has that script trigger assigned to it, which is the commit record. So if we go and have a try, okay, this is not working. The reason this is not working is let's have a look at my filter. Did I do it right? Oh no, I have it wrong. Here I have Berths dashboard. It should be boats dashboard all. There you go. And that looks better. So I've got my berthed boats, and I have my unberthed boats, and I have my empty slots. Okay, cool. So now that I have my unberthed boats and my empty slots here. This should be like my default kind of situation, but I could also kind of go in here to see what's going on there. Okay, so okay, so I need to maybe fill in this and this information as well. Very simple. I can go to my relationships and I'm going to see here. So I've got my boat dashboard and this has a berth ID in it. So I'm going to take this berth, I'm going to alt drag it. And I'm going to say berths dash. There you go. So that my berth can be related here. And then for my boats on the other side, I'm going to say boats dash. Now you could use these as well and just put them down here, but that could get you into trouble later on. It could make your file really messy. So I like to make other table occurrences to really keep my relationships very clean. So boat ID goes to boats. And then I can get in here through my edit layout. I can change this one from the berth. I can say berths dash, and I can have that C number location. And then here from my boat, I can have my boat dash, and I have my name of my boat. So, okay, this is not big enough. I did use long boat names. And then the berthed ones are in these berths. Okay, so now I can get all of the information that I want. And I can actually take these status fields out if I want, because I can basically see what the status is here. But that doesn't matter. Okay, cool. So now what I need to do is I need to basically select the boat and say that that boat needs to be assigned to a certain berth. And I guess the simplest way to do that is to make a little bit of a select button. Very simple. You can do this actually in many different ways. I guess you could probably put some drop downs in the portal, but let's make this a bit fancier, shall we? So let's make a little select button here. We have buttons, we just put it up here, and let's call it select. Very simple. Let's make it a nice color. Let's give it a blue color, for instance, and let's look at the height, because these are usually by default 22, but the fields are like 21, so let's make it as high as the field. Okay, cool. And then let's give this select field an action. And basically what needs to happen when I select this boat, I would like to have the boat ID show up in this field. So that's a very simple script. And if you want to make that script, you have to look here. So from boats dashboard all, I want to get the boat ID in the boat IDFK field of the dashboard. Very simple. So I'm going to do a new script, and that is select boat. So I'm going to do a set field step, because I'm going to set a value into a field. I'm going to specify the target field, and it's on my dashboard that I am on my dashboard layout, and it's the boat IDFK. That's very simple. And the value that I'm going to get, if you remember, it was from my boats dashboard all, and it's going to be the ID of the boat. That's what I'm going to set up there. Okay, I'm going to set field, and then I will do a commit record, which is kind of that with the dialog off. Okay, which is kind of like saving this value in the field and kind of exiting that field. Okay, so let's do that. Let's assign this script to this button. So let's go to buttons, action, and then perform script. Let's do select boat. Okay, and if I do that, you can see my boat ID FK changing here. And as one thing missing, when I have a button, I like to change the cursor to a hand over the button so that you can really see that this is a button. Okay, so this is cool, but this is just changing my boat ID FK, which I don't really need to do. What I would like to do is maybe more, well, I guess I could do this multiple different ways. Let's make it flexible, so let's also set up a pop-up menu. And let's say that I would like to have boats as a drop-down list. So let's make this one boats. Let's use the values from boats. And let's say I want the ID, but I also want to see the name of the boat. I'm going to include all the boats. I'm going to show values only from the second field. Let's hit OK, and let's have a look at what that looks like. So if I select this one, it says Fisherman's Friend. That is basically my selected boat. Selected boat. Cool. And if I select this one, then it says Finding Nemo. That's the boat that I have selected right now. Okay, so that's kind of cool. That works cool. And I can make the exact same thing on the other side. Oh, there's one more thing. This is kind of cool, but it's not so easy to see in my list here which boat I have selected. So there's a good trick for that. Let's edit the layout and let's select all of these fields. Let's go to conditional formatting. Let's add a formula here. And let's say, if we're kind of smart, then we'll know what we're going to do. If the ID of my boat is the same as my boat ID in the dashboard, then I'm going to give this a color. So let's specify that if my dashboard boat IDFK, if that is equal to my boat dashboard all ID, then I would like to have a fill color of green. See, it can be that simple. And then I can very clearly see which boat that I have selected. This is already starting to look pretty nice, isn't it? I'm kind of proud of this. Okay, so I have got the ability to select the boat. Let's also select a berth, shall we? Okay, so I need to make this one a bit bigger. Maybe I'll need to move this whole setup a bit over here. And then what I'll do is oops, I think it's not enough room. I'll just make this one a bit larger. I'm going to alt drag this one over here. Yeah, cool. So I'm going to select a berth as well. So I'm going to go to the script workspace. I've got my select boat, so I'm going to duplicate this. Right click duplicate. Then I'm going to do select berth. And then I'm going to change a few values here. So let's set field not boat ID but berth ID in my dashboard, and not boat dashboard all but berths dashboard all, because I'm selecting a berth right now. Okay, and that's good. So I'm going to save this script. I'm going to say perform script, select berth, and change cursor to a hand. That's good. And then I'm also going to select all of these here. I'm going to do conditional formatting. I'm going to add a formula, and that formula is going to be the one we just did. If the berth IDFK is equal to the berth dashboard all ID, then I've got the one that I've selected, and that should be green fill color. Let's have a look. There you go. So now, as you can see right here, I'm selecting a berth. I've got a boat selected, and I actually didn't try this one yet, but I have the ability here to select, basically in this one I can select any boat I want, which could be handy sometimes, but I will sometimes maybe select a boat that is already berthed. So this is a choice that you can kind of keep to yourself. If you want to only show unberthed boats in this one, then you need to change this drop down. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll just alt drag this one over here. Yep, and what we can do is we could make a conditional value list attached to this. And then we can change our drop down to show only the berthed or the unberthed boats. So on my dashboard, I have my berthed and unberthed selector. So if I attach my boats, so I'm going to alt copy my boats here, then what I can do is I can make a boats conditional value list on the dashboard. And the condition is going to be birthed or unbirthed. So I can take this birthed unbirthed selector and I can attach it to my birthed unbirthed field right here. And I'll just bring this one down a bit and put it over here. I can actually close all of these down a bit so I can save some space. There we go. Okay, cool. So now what I could do is I could set up a new pop-up menu. And I'm going to show my boats, but I'm going to duplicate this one. Or you know what, I'm just not going to duplicate this one. I'm just going to start from scratch. Let's do a boats, a conditional value list on the dashboard. So let's use the values from my boats CV dash, and it's again going to be ID and then the name. But I'm going to include only related values starting from the dashboard. I'm going to show values only from second field. Okay. And then let's have a look whether if this works or not. I've got Finding Nemo or Fisherman's Friend. And then if I select birth here, then this one kind of allows me to select the other ones. Now this could be a little tricky because I could have a boat selected, like I have Finding Nemo selected, but if I change this selector, Finding Nemo is actually one of the boats that is unbirthed. And if I switch this one, this kind of messes up my this drop down. Now a way to solve that would be to make a new script. Basically this script, let's duplicate it, and then let's say clear boat, clear selected boat. See, when you're making a file like this, there's always stuff that comes up. All right, set field, and then let's just empty that field. So let's specify the dashboard boat IDFK field. Let's just set it to nothing, and then let's actually switch these from their places. Okay, let's save this, and let's add this as a script trigger. Let's change the commit record and let's do the clear selected boat, so that if you change this value here, this field actually gets cleared, which is kind of good. One annoying thing is that now this one shows up as green, but you can kind of create an addition to the conditional formatting that says dashboard boat IDFK needs to be the same as boat dashboard all ID, and let's do and oops, not random, and not is empty boat dashboard all ID. So it can't, the ID can be empty, cannot be empty there, and that solves kind of that problem of the green value there. So I have my unbirthed boats and I can select one, and if I go to my birthed boats, these are not selected anymore. I could select one here. Okay, so this system is starting to come along very well, and up until here it's all still been very simple. And for the drop down, you could kind of choose whatever you like. This is kind of easy to select a boat, but if for some reason you quickly want to select a boat and you want to have all the boats available, this one is kind of handy. If you just want to kind of stick to this limitation, then you can just use this kind of a drop down as well. I think all of the boats is kind of handy sometimes if you just quickly want to select any boat, and then there you go. Then we now need to be able to, when we select a berth, we need to be able to now assign assign the boat to the berth, and I'm actually going to quickly do this as a drop down as well, or as a pop-up menu. So I'm going to do Berths, and very simple, from my Berths I want to have the ID, and I want to also display the number location. I'm going to show the values only from the second field. I'm going to hit OK, OK, OK. And then basically I also have the ability to select any berth I want. Now it is true that sometimes that's going to be a berth that is not in this list, but this could be handy if you just quickly want to select a berth and maybe see what's going on in that berth at that time, whether if that is empty or not. So you could get some information about this berth and just add it here. So you could say selected berth, and then you could say maybe let's see if I've already, oh no, so the boat and the berth ID FK fields have not yet been collected. So what we could do is just do berths and boats selected. Selected. Okay, cool. Let's copy and let's paste. So now what I've got is my boat IDFK goes to the boat and my berth IDFK goes to the berth, and then basically I could set them up down here. That seems most logical. There you go. I might have to switch their places because they're, otherwise the lines cross. Okay, cool. So now what I can do is I can add additional information up here. So if I add another field from maybe berths selected, I could add the status here, for instance, of this berth. And that way I can basically select any berth I want, and I could also see here whether if it's empty or whether if it's full. So that's kind of handy to see. If you're just quickly looking for a berth, you could just type ahead and enter a number like 3, and then you could hit enter to select that one, and then you can very quickly see for a certain berth if it's empty or not. And you could do the same thing for a boat as well. So you could type P, and then you have Peter. You can select this one, and you could just also add additional information here from the related table, like you could have the status of the boat, etc. And you could even add, let's see, let's add the status of the boat selected, berthed. Needs to be big enough for that berthed unberthed situation. Okay, so you could select any boat you want, and you could see whether if it is berthed or unberthed. Okay, cool. And you could also maybe add the boat here. So if we could take this even a step further, we have our dashboard. On our dashboard we have a selected berth. This berth has a boat ID, so I can just select or attach this one, and I will say boat selected. No, I'm going to say boats, boat dash berth selected. It's starting to become very complicated, but don't worry, it's actually quite simple. So if my boat here is attached to this one, then I can show which boat is parked in my selected berth, so that when I select a berth, so if I have a full berth and I just want to maybe like select it, like let's say I'm looking at my empty berths and I want some information on a berth like the 4, I can see which boat is in there by just adding the field from my boats dash berth selected, and I can have the boat name here. So maybe what I need to do is take all of this stuff down a bit and just say this is the berthed boat, if there is one, and then status, so that anyone that I kind of select here, let's say to center, field is too small, but it is showing the name of the boat that is now berthed there. So this one is full and it has this boat in it. So what this does is it allows you to quickly select an empty berth, which is cool. But if you want to have any information on any berth, you can select it here and you can very quickly see, oh, this one is full and it has a boat in it. Let's say someone shows up and you tell him, well, why don't you go to berth number 4? It's empty. And he says, well, I would like to have berth number 2. Then you can kind of go in here and you can say, oh, no, that's full. This boat is in there. So that's kind of good. And it's the handy thing about a dashboard is that all of the information is right there at your fingertips. Okay, we still have not gotten to the most important part here, which is Finding Nemo shows up and wants to go into a berth. Let's say we're going to give him berth number 4. Now I need to be able to berth this boat. So what needs to happen for me to berth this boat? I need to be able to put the boat ID of the selected boat in the boat ID field of the berth. And then that will basically, and also, yeah, I need to put, let's go back here to my berths. I need to put the boat ID in my berth table, but also I need to put the berth ID, and I have not yet gotten that on this layout, but I can just add it. Also, I need to put the berth ID in the boat field there. But if I have a selected boat and a selected berth, then I can enter whichever value I want in these table occurrences here, in my boat selected and my berth selected. So it's very simple. I need to make a simple script for that, where I berth a boat. That's what I'm going to do. And if I make a script, I always first of all have to think ahead of all the stuff that could go wrong. Now, what could go wrong? In this case, let's say that I did not select a boat. I'm actually not able to, oh yeah, okay, this works. Okay, so if I did not select anything, this shouldn't work. So I need to make a safety first, which is could make an if is empty dashboard berth IDFK. Then what I want to do is I want to have a beep, and I want to show a custom dialog, and my custom dialog has to say, let's go to the settings. No, which was I dealing with? Berth. You did not select a berth. Please select one from the list. Cool. One from the list. Please don't make typos. Okay, then the same thing happens for the boat. So I'm going to copy paste this one, and I'm going to say boat if is empty boat IDFK, then beep no boat selected. You did not select a boat. Please select one from the list. Okay, and apparently I did not. Put an A there. You did not select the berth, and then, oh yeah, of course, after this I need to do halt script, obviously. I'm going to copy and paste. So I need to halt my script because I cannot go on if either one of these is not selected. They both have to be selected, otherwise I've got a big problem. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set two fields, set field, and so in my I'm going to set my for my selected boats, I'm going to set the berth IDFK, and the value is going to be from my dashboard berth IDFK, correct, and that's why I need to have those values filled in. So then in my I'm going to copy paste this one, then in my boats selected, oh no, in my berths selected boat IDFK, I'm going to set my boat ID, and that's this one. Oops, I have to select this first, and then boat IDFK. So I'm going to set my boat ID in my Berths table, and I'm going to set my berth ID in my boats table. And setting those is going to mark this boat as berthed and this berth as full. That's going to happen automatically because of those C-enter calculations that we did. So I'm going to set those fields, and then I'm going to commit a record request with dialog off. And then we're going to test this out to see if this is enough. And maybe what I could do is a little beep and maybe a little show custom dialog, and maybe I'll do success, your boat has been parked. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So let's save this one. Okay, let's make a nice button for this. Let's put it somewhere here. That's a good place, I think. Berth this boat. Cool. Is there any kind of a boat parking image in here? No, there isn't. Too bad. Okay, so we'll just not use an image then. We'll just use a text. Okay, let's run a script. Let's perform my berth a boat script, and let's change the cursor to a hand. Then let's go and find a nice little color for this button. I would suggest green maybe is nice. Okay, let's exit the layout and let's see what happens. Let's see if I click it now. You did not select the berth. Please select one from the list. Okay, cool. Let's do. Let's select the berth. Let's do the empty ones. Let's select number 3. Let's also select the boat. Let's select Finding Nemo, and then let's say berth this boat. Your boat has been parked. Okay, and what has happened now? There is one boat less in here, one boat less, one parking spot less in here. So let's go and look at the full ones. My Finding Nemo is in spot number 3. And also here, Finding Nemo is in number 3 back. So that's kind of cool. One problem that I have now with this, okay, so maybe there's a little addition we need to do. Once the boat and the berth have been kind of connected to each other, these fields need to be emptied. That's kind of important, I think. So let's do add that to our script. Let's set both of these fields. Both selected. Let's set them both to empty. No, I'm kind of doing it wrong. Hold on a second. I need to set the dashboard boat IDFK and the dashboard berth IDFK. Let's set both of them to empty so that I don't accidentally press the button twice and then have another like berth boat setup situation going on. Success, your boat has been parked. Okay, let's save this. So let's select this boat, and let's select here spot number 4. Let's berth this boat. Your boat has been parked, and so these fields are now empty so that I can't accidentally do something wrong. Okay, maybe now we need to figure out a way to do the opposite. So if my berthed boat and my full, or maybe I can just, I don't need this for real. I can just go and select the boat. And instead of berthing, I'm going to unberth this boat. So let's alt drag this over here. Berth this boat. Let's do unberth this boat. And then I'll just give this maybe a red color. So what needs to happen for that? Let's do a new script and do unberth boat. So what I'm guessing is you're going to see a boat leaving, so you're going to search mostly for that boat name. But then you do need to empty those both of those fields that we have filled in. So I'm going to say if my boat is empty, I'm going to copy this part to my I could close these ones. Okay, so I'm going to paste this part. If is empty boat IDFK, then I can't do anything because I did not select the boat, but I don't really have to select the berth, so I'll just do this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a set field because I want to change. What do I want to do? I want to empty the berth record as well, but so I need to select that berth. So I'm going to set field berth IDFK with the value from my selected boat. Boats selected. There I have my berth IDFK. So I'm going to take my berth IDFK and I'm going to enter it in my dashboard berth. I'm going to commit this record so that I can then do a set field in that selected berth, because my berth, I did not select that myself. I only selected the boat. So I'm going to set my berth selected boat ID field to nothing. That's the one I want to empty. So I'm going to set it to 2 quotation marks, which is nothing. And then I'm going to do for my boat selected, my berth IDFK, I'm going to clean that one out as well. And then I'm going to do a commit record request with the dialog off. And then maybe I'll do another custom dialog, copy, paste. Success, your boat has left arbor. Is it OR or OUR? I'm not sure. Okay, so let's save this one and let's try this out. Let's look at our logic. Let's see if this is correct. I'm going to set my dashboard berth ID with my selected boat's berth ID so that that becomes my selected berth. Oh yeah, I need to also clear these fields afterwards. So berth the boat, I'm going to copy these two, and then I'm going to maybe, oh yeah, I'll just copy, paste this. Okay, so that I clear these as well. I'm going to command S. Okay, so if I now do button action perform script and I do unberth the boat, then the opposite should happen. So I'm going to select boaty McBoat face. I'm going to unberth this boat. Your boat has left the harbor. So now this spot shows up here as an extra empty spot, and there's one boat less that is berthed. So if all of these boats are leaving, then more spots show up here. So that's kind of cool. Now there is one thing that I was thinking of. I'm going to unberth this as well. So all my boats are gone now. And now I have a bunch of unberthed boats. What I was thinking is if a boat shows up like Peter Pumpkin Eater, and I'm going to put him in spot number 3 and I'm going to say berth this boat. It's kind of cool, but the problem is if you forget where you placed this boat, this information kind of goes away really fast. So your boat has been parked. Okay, that's pretty good, but if I forgot where which spot I assigned him to, then that's kind of annoying, and I would have to go and look for whoa, what was this again? Oh, I have to go in here, and then if I have a whole list of boats, I have to look in the boat to see that this boat is in number 3. So that's kind of annoying. I guess I could solve that by creating some sort of a log that I show up here, where it always shows kind of my latest transactions, if you will, or actions that I took. So I can always kind of look down here in like a little list to see what I just did or what just happened, so that if that boat guy comes back and asks me, oh, which one did I have to go to again, then you can kind of see that here in your log. That is one way to do it, and I'm thinking if that's the best idea to do it. You could also just kind of go back to your boat here and then see that it has been berthed, but actually here I'm not yet showing the location, so I would then have to add to my boats selected. I would have to add this one just the same as I did here. Berths dash boat selected. Okay, and I guess I could do that. That's probably pretty easy. I could say from Berths dash boat selected. Seems like that is not related. Did I not relate this one? No, not yet. Berth IDFK to this berth. Cool, and then that way I can kind of see. But then I do have to look it up. So another idea would be to make a log. I guess let's just do this. Let's do a log, and then in that log we would have an ID, which would be a number with an auto enter serial number. I haven't really thought this through, so there might be a more elegant way to do this, but let's do this kind of simply. Let's do boat, and let's do berth, and let's do boat. Let's just keep it simple, and let's do action there. Okay, and then what we could do is we could use that same trick again. If we would like, we could just do the G1 trick in my log, where I do G1 as a number, and I set this to auto enter a, not a calculated value, but a data, and then I can just relate this log to this dashboard by the G1 field. And then what I'll do is I'll allow the creation of records in this table, and there you go. Very simple. Let's leave this log over there. It's cool. Then I could maybe delete this footer because I don't need it. And then I could make a log. This log, I can put it down here. I'm going to say log. I'm going to sort this by, I'm going to have to sort this by date, and I don't have a date yet. Let's put that in there in a second. Let's allow the deletion if you want to delete something, or not if we want to keep this as a log and we don't want to make any changes there. But if you make a mistake, like you accidentally birth a boat and it's wrong, you might want to be able to delete. Okay, and then we're going to say boat, birth, and action. And then I'm also going to add real quick to the log the time. Well, let's do date. Let's do date. Let's do time. But let's also do timestamp for sorting. Timestamp. Okay, cool. And let's make all of these auto enter. So let's do creation date. Let's do creation time, and let's do creation timestamp. Okay, I've got all of these ones that need to look more default. I've got my boat, I've got my birth, I've got my action. And then I'm gonna add maybe the, let's alt drag, let's do the date. Let's make this a bit smaller. And this action doesn't need to be this big either. And then let's drag this to give it the time. And then maybe the ability to delete. So let's insert a picture, which could be a image. I've got the beach ball. Okay, insert. And let's set this one up to be a simple button with a single step of delete. Portal row with the dialog on. Yeah, that's fine. Let's hit OK. And let's give this one also a hand over cursor. Okay, so this would be my log of stuff that I've done. And then I kind of know what I just did. Okay, so now we have to add this stuff that I'm doing. We have to add, and you can see this green line here. I fixed it on this one. I haven't fixed it here yet. We need to add our log. So basically, whichever thing we do, We just need to add not is empty. I really shouldn't be doing two things at the same time. So this was the side of the Berths. Okay, I hope I got it right here. Okay, so every time I do either a berth or an unberth of a boat, I need to fill in these fields. So I need to put some labels in later. Okay, cool. Let's look at our script. So when I berth a boat, I need to do all of this. I'll just put it in here. I'm going to start a little, if you write something with a little hashtag, then you can make a comment. So you could write create log line. Cool. And then we're going to do a go to object. Because that is what we've got here. This is an object, and now we need to give this object a name. So we're going to go here and do log portal. I'm going to copy this, and that's going to be the name of my object. So I could name these objects as well, but this object is now log portal. So I'm going to do go to object, and I'm going to paste this name log portal that I just copied. Go to object, then I'm going to do go to portal row. Last, because that will be the one where I can add a new line, and then I'm going to do set field, and I'm going to specify my log boat field, and basically I need to fill in my boat name. Now the problem is I don't have my boat name available to me anymore because I had like selected these boats, but I've already cleared my selected field here. So I need to make sure that I do this afterwards. And I can make a new comment for this: clear selected boat and berth fields. Okay, so now that I still have my boat selected, I could get my boat name from my boat selected, their name. And then I'm going to copy paste because I might want to also put my berth in there. And this is going to be from berth selected. And this is my number location. And then I'm going to set a status as well. I'll copy paste. My action is, in this case, I have berthed a boat. So berthed. That's what I've done. Okay, that's cool. Then I'm going to empty those fields, and that's cool. Let's do another commit. Let's save this whole thing, and then let's copy all of this. Let's take all of these steps. I've got these two that I want to put later, but I've copied them anyway, so let's paste. Go to log portal. This is the same thing, except when this one needs unberthed, and I'm going to say unberthed. Or you could say left or whatever, because this is going to look very similar. Berthed and unberthed, so it might not be so clear that these words are so similar. Then I'm going to clear those fields. And then I'm going to say, is there anything else I need to change? No, I think this looks kind of good. So let's hit close here. Let's Command B. Okay, let's try this exercise again. So I have apparently, let's unberth this boat. Cool. And so Peter Pumpkin Eater number 3, or I have to finish my labels here. This one is the boat. This one is the berth. And this one is the action that has happened. And then this is the date and time. Date and time. Okay, cool. And there seems to be something funny going on with this one because that's not showing up there. Maybe because they're overlapping. However, I don't think that should be a problem. Anyway, doesn't matter. So if I go to my unberthed boat and I select the boat and I select an empty berth here, boom, your boat has been parked. And then if I forget what I've done, then I can always look here. Now the problem is that the one that I just did is at the bottom. So I'm going to edit and double click here, and I'm going to sort the portal records by timestamp, but I'm going to sort them. I think I'll have to sort them in descending. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. So now the last one is on top. So if I select, for instance, Finding Nemo in berth number 3, and I berth this boat, then Finding Nemo berth number 3 is up top. So this will give me a very cool kind of list of stuff that I've done. And if then this guy shows up again and asks, oh, where did I have to go again? You can just look it up here. It's very simple, very easy. Okay, so I've talked way too long already. This started out as a very simple question about a dwindling value list, which actually became a big solution of how you could simply do this kind of stuff, assign one thing to another. This can be useful in many different situations. And so I hope that there were a lot of little tricks and techniques that you've learned, and I hope it wasn't too complicated. All right, ciao. If you guys want to learn a ton more about Filemaker, you can head over to my Udemy page where I've got a bunch of entire Filemaker courses online. You can follow them, and basically we make entire Filemaker systems from scratch, and I'll take you on the entire process step by step. There is even one that is completely free, so you can just follow that free of charge, and that is a beginner tutorial where we make an entire contacts database. That's a really fun one that you can follow that can teach you the basics of Filemaker. So head over there by following the links in the description, and I'll see you guys there.